What if I told you that you're probably not that far off from being able to charge $10,000, $20,000, $50,000 for building a website? Would you laugh at me? Well, this week we are chatting with somebody who learned how to do that himself and is now teaching other people how to do it as well. Dreams do come true, my friends, and we're talking about it this week on the Self-Made Web Designer Podcast. Let's go. What's up, everybody? Welcome to another episode, another week of hanging out with you on the Self-Made Web Designer Podcast. I hope you're having a good time learning how to build websites, learning how to build a freelance web design business. And this week we have an amazing guest. His name is Ran Segall, and he runs the Flux Academy. And Ran is just a huge inspiration for me as a web designer and as a content creator. He's got some amazing stuff out there, and I feel like I should just mention it right off the bat. Go find Ran on Instagram. That's Ran Segall, Seagall, or find him on YouTube simply by searching Flux in YouTube, Flux. There's some great stuff on there. Ran has coached thousands of freelance web designers over the years, and he's done that not from a place of lack of experience. No, he learned how to build a web design agency himself and learned how to go from charging very little, if nothing at all, to charging clients tens of thousands of dollars to build websites. And we're not talking about like crazy websites that are super complicated and then take years to make. We're talking about the average websites that you would be contracted for as a freelance web designer. So he learned how to do it himself, and now he is teaching other people how to do it as well. And he's teaching us this week. He was gracious enough to come on the show, and he's got a lot of great insight. So we're going to dive in. But before we get started, a little bit of a change of pace. I just want to let you know, if you want to have a conversation, if you need a little bit of help that you're not necessarily able to find on the podcast or the blog, sign up for a phone call with me. It is 100% free, and I am selling absolutely nothing. There's a link to my calendar on my homepage where you can sign up for a 15-minute slot. I'd be happy to get to know you and to try to help as much as I possibly can. All right, are you ready to dive into how to win $10,000 clients as a freelance web designer? Okay, let's go. Hey, Ran, thanks so much for being on the Self-Made Web Designer Podcast. It's just honored to have you, bro.
Thanks, Chris. Pleasure to be here. Thanks for inviting me.
Yeah, so I wonder if you can take a second and just tell us a bit about who you are, how you got started in web design, and where you are today.
Cool. So I'm a designer, been a designer for now 20 years. Started back in high school hustling, doing favors to friends with a pirated version of Photoshop. And that escalated, as they said. Started working in advertising and branding. Also ended up going to like an actual design school for 4 years. Then ended up working in startups before going freelance full-time about 7 years ago. And I've been growing my freelance business for a few years while also documenting some of my process and learnings on YouTube, which is what eventually 2 years ago led to me kind of migrating into teaching design and building an online design school focusing on web design about 2 years ago. So that's the story, pretty short.
That's great. And I am a huge fan of your stuff on YouTube. You've got some great Instagram posts and almost like miniature tutorials that are just like packed with such wisdom. So if anybody's listening right now, just don't even listen to the podcast anymore. Just go find Ran on YouTube, find him on Instagram, and just start following, because you will not be disappointed.
I have to give credit though, because we now have, as we're building our team, we now have a whole content team. So the stuff that you're seeing on Instagram is not purely mine. It's the whole team behind it. We actually show them at the end of of our posts. So that's just have to give credit where credit is due.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, it certainly takes a good team to pull off something like you guys are pulling off. So I definitely appreciate that. Well, tell me a little bit about the inner workings of kind of how you built your business, because I think your story is really similar to what a lot of people that I've talked to who are entering into web design have experienced themselves, from kind of playing around with it a little bit to maybe thinking like, hey, this is maybe something to this, maybe I can make some money out of it, to growing it and expanding it. So what did that look like? How did you strategically grow it from the early days of a, hacked Photoshop version to building it into this big agency?
I mean, it was a very, very long journey because it wasn't really planned out. I didn't have a very clear goal in mind when I just started out. So like a lot of people who start this off as a hobby, and initially you can't even believe somebody's actually going to pay you for doing what you enjoy, what you would be doing for free anyway. Um, I think I've stumbled into discovering what I want to do. I was conflicted. Do I want to do branding? Do I want to work with tech companies and design products? Do I want to build websites? What do I want to do? Do I want to work within a team? Do I want to, run my own business? What am I good at? Where is my strengths? What is my niche? And it was a long journey because, as I said, I wasn't really clear on both what I want, and nobody really showed me the path. So it was a very long journey of really starting from the bottom, working with crappy small little clients, those who give you hell for it and then pay you $200. And then really slowly working my way up, and then also investing in understanding, learning business side, learning how to negotiate, learning what's valuable, learning how to deliver good service. So I've always been into learning. I've been a self-learner, and I'm reading a lot, always trying to improve myself. I'm big on improvement, and it has worked out. It has paid off, I think. So as I grew, both obviously my skills and capabilities improved, but also my focus in terms of what I want to do and what's more interesting to me to work on, helped me to define really what my niche is and what projects do I want to work on with what clients.
I wonder if you could just chat a little bit about, because I know as kind of the industry of web technologies gets more and more popular for people to kind of jump into, and freelancers seeing opportunity. And, not that I don't think there's not plenty of work to go around for absolutely everybody. But there certainly are things that set apart folks who are web designers who build $500 websites versus 2,000 versus 5,000 versus 10,000. And you've worked with a lot of folks and coached a lot of folks. So what are some of the differences between the folks who are playing maybe on a smaller scale with lower prices and those who are playing on a bigger scale with higher prices?
First of all, I would say that not only is there enough work to go around, I do feel like there is a very big shortage in the people who can support the higher end of the market, the $10,000 projects and around that part. There's a lot of clients with money who are looking for designers to help them in that level, but not enough people are helping them or are capable of helping them. And that's part of what we're trying to do, with the school that we're building. We're trying to train people to do that because we feel like there is a shortage there. I think, from a high level perspective, the difference is in both the types of project, the types of problems that you solve for your clients, meaning when you build somebody a $500 website, you're solving a very small problem. When you're selling a $10,000 website or $50,000 website, you're usually solving a bigger problem, more valuable problem, and that's why it's worth more. And that a lot of times that also correlates with skill, meaning sometimes if you don't have the skills, you can't solve bigger problems. but not always. I do feel like there's a lot of very, very talented and skillful people who are still stuck at solving small problems. And I'll give an example. If the problem that you are solving is, I need a website or I need a logo or something like that, that's actually a very small problem, because building a website, you can probably either do it for free. Every hosting company where you bought your domain will give you a free website builder, or you can set up your WordPress or buy a template or sign up for Wix or Squarespace and get it done for like $10. So having a website is actually a very small problem. If that's a problem that you're solving, no wonder that you're stuck at the lower level. But if you're moving into the higher level problems of businesses where they're asking themselves, how do I grow my business? How do I differentiate myself from competitors? How do I get more customers to trust me? How do I convert more customers or more leads into paying customers? How do I increase the value of each customer? These are very big business problems that a lot of times can be solved with a better website. And if you are solving these types of problems for your clients, then you are now solving problems that are way, way, way more valuable, problems that can make impact of millions of dollars for businesses. And that's when your value increases dramatically. Now, the other thing about this is you also need to understand that there is just different types of clients who just want to pay different prices, right? And you can think about this, you can think about it in the food industry, right? If you want to get a burger, you can go to McDonald's and get it for $1. Or you can go to like a chef restaurant and pay, I don't know how much. It's basically the same thing, right? The same materials, almost the same. But there's something different in the experience. There's something different in the brand. There's something different in, the whole service experience. So all of these things, what you might call, user experience or customer experience, those things matter too, because some people want to work with high-level people who are dressed nicely and who will serve you nice coffee in their nice office when you meet them. And this is part of what people are willing to pay money for. Some people want to say, I worked with this famous designer, because it says something about them, just like some people are willing to pay more to get a Gucci bag or something. So there's a lot of psychology that goes into why people pay high prices. And I think it's a combination of both these things, right? Solving big problems, and then also understanding why would somebody want to pay a lot of money and tapping into that.
Speaking of psychology, I think a lot of times the psychology of the freelancer or the web designer plays a really big part in this as well, in understanding, that it feels really scary to say, I need $10,000 for you to hire me, but it's actually not as scary as you're feeling. So there's all these insecurities that kind of go into the process of hiking it up another level. And I remember when I started raising my rates, I reached a ceiling, and I knew I needed to go to that next level. And the next client I pitched to, I about had a panic attack saying I needed, X amount of dollars to actually do this website for them. And so talk a little bit about that. Talk about how you've coached folks to kind of get over their own internal struggles when it comes to charging higher prices for websites for clients.
Right. So I think you've tapped into something that is really important. I think when I think about why most people won't charge higher prices, it can be either one of two things. One, they don't have the skill, meaning they will ask for a lot of money, but they will not get it because the person can see their portfolio or something like this, and they say, "Nah, you're just not good enough." But more often than not, it's a confidence issue, meaning your skills are okay, but you just don't have the guts to ask for it. And of course, if you are asking it in a non-confident way, like, I think I need $10,000. If you ask it this way, they obviously read it into you and they're saying, if this guy doesn't think he's worth it, why would I think he's worth it, right? So it's like a magic. You have to believe the magic for it to work. So the actual question, I think, is how do you build confidence? Because without it, you can't raise your prices. And I think, what has worked for me, and, I look at this metaphor of extreme sports. If you look at these huge skateboarding ramps or something like this, you're like, who are the crazy people who have the guts to slide through these crazy huge ramps? And if you think about this, nobody goes up there on day one. They will start with something very, very, very small, and they will slowly increase. And that's just how you build confidence. You don't start on day one asking for $10,000. It's more like you'll start at $500 and then $1,000 and then $2,000 and then $5,000. But if you're always pushing yourself and, you do this $1,000 project, you get good feedback, and then you're like, okay, I'm confident. If I can make people happy on $1,000, let's see if I can make people happy on $2,000. So you'll do this process. Some people get stuck because they're uncomfortable pushing themselves. But if you are comfortable pushing yourself just a little bit every time, then you will slowly build your confidence. I don't think there is a magic trick to it. One more thing that I think is helpful and is what we use our community for is just to see how other people are doing it. That also helps to build confidence, right? One of the things I did on my YouTube channel is share at the end of every year how much money I was making. And the reason I did this was not to brag, but actually just to show people that it's possible. Because for me, knowing how much other people are making was something very inspirational to me, to just even show me that it's possible. Like there was a point earlier on in my career where I didn't even think it's possible to make 100K, 200K a year as a designer. That looked ludicrous to me. But once I saw other people making it and I got to know these people, and I'm like, these people are good, but they're not like 10 times better than me, right? I'm not that dumb. Perhaps I can do it, So I think seeing other people succeed, and it's kind of like these, I don't remember if it's like the 4-minute mile or 3-minute mile. Once you know somebody has done that before, it's possible. So now you just have to practice and do it yourself. If you think it's impossible, you're not going to even try. But if you know that's definitely possible, now at least you're motivated to give it a shot.
I think a lot of times when it comes to charging higher prices, it's more on how you present yourself, more in how you are marketing yourself to the person that you're talking to. So rather than saying, hey, I can build you a nice website, you could point out how nice looking websites actually are proven from tons of studies that they've done from Harvard to other universities to whatever. Nice looking websites actually make you more money without you even really doing anything. Some part of this is, just kind of a slick marketing trick. And what is an actual skill? What's the level where you've got to go, no, this is more than just me, having some guru speak to some client who is being vulnerable right now and doesn't know anything about it, to, actually I've got skills and I can show you how my website design increased a company's conversion by 10x over a year. How do you go about figuring that out for the freelancers that you're coaching?
First of all, my perspective is I do not try to convince somebody to pay a price that they don't want to pay. That is just impossible. I mean, if they think design is not going to impact their business, it's not going to be a good fit, right? I'm not going to go and educate them right now on the impact of good design. That doesn't work. I think that takes a lot of time, and they have to learn it in a sense on their own. I think the right clients already have made the decision to invest, but the only thing they're not sure of is whether they should invest with you. So that's the real question. It's not about whether design is important. They already know design is important. And if they don't know this, you're not going to convince them. So The only thing that you need to solve for is, what do they need to be able to trust me? Sometimes talking about research or mentioning these numbers can make you look like an expert. Sometimes showing your portfolio or talking about previous client successes can make you look like a professional. Sometimes, whatever, if you have a degree from a famous institution, that will help you build trust, or testimonials, or whatever. There's a lot of reasons to build trust. But I think that the main barrier is not whether I should invest, it's whether I should invest with you. That being said, it doesn't mean that there won't be a negotiation. There's always going to be a negotiation. Even in the higher tiers, people are still business owners, and they think, oh, I need to save up money, so perhaps, maybe I can get this for lower. But they're talking about, maybe I can get this for $8.5K, not maybe I can get this for $500. So I think that's where presenting yourself and positioning yourself as an expert can help them choose you. But again, categorically, they have already made a decision whether they want to work with higher end, medium, tier, or low end designers. And you just need to verify or qualify, as they say in sales, that you are even talking with the right person that has the budget and want to invest that budget. And then you just need to show him that, you've got what they want.
I want to take a second and tell you about a free course that I have available at selfmadewebdesigner.com. Over 1,000 people have been through this course, and I am talking about the Web Designer Starter Kit course. I map out in 4 videos that you get through email all the steps that I took to get to where I am as a web designer. And I went from knowing absolutely nothing. I was clueless to, in 2 years, doubling my income with a freelance web design side hustle. I made this because I know you can be successful doing the same thing. And the Web Designer Starter Kit course is the first step for you on your journey to being a successful, thriving freelance web designer or having a full-time career. So I can't wait for you to check it out. Go to selfmadewebdesigner.com and sign up today. So let's talk a little bit about that negotiating factor, because you've mentioned that a couple of times, and I do think that it can play a role in being successful, and it's also very scary, when you are negotiating and essentially you're being willing to walk away from a project if something doesn't go your way. So what does that look like? How do you negotiate with a client to go up to a certain level?
It's funny, I just had a conversation with one of my students today, and he told me, I don't think that I'm really good at negotiation. And I tried to dive deeper, and I thought, why do you think you're not good at negotiation? And what I actually understood was that it's not that he's not good at negotiation, or there's anything that he needs to learn about negotiation. He's just, trying to avoid conflicts. And I can totally relate to that. I am trying to avoid conflicts in my life, with my wife, with my kids, with my team, with my clients. I'm just a person that doesn't like conflicts. And negotiation, by definition, you're going to have a little bit of conflict, because, you want to get the most money, and they want to pay the least money. So by definition, there's a conflict. So one of the first question is, the person who is less wary of conflicts, or is willing. Nobody likes conflict. They don't like conflicts any more than you. But if they are willing to stay with it, with this uncomfortable conflict position, and in a way, suffer this for longer, they are going to, quote unquote, win, right? Because they're going to keep pushing, and at the end of the day you're like, I don't want to talk about this anymore. I just want to get started going back to design. I'm a designer. I shouldn't be talking about this. you know? So that. I do think that it's a game that you have to learn how to play. I can tell you that, because I was the way that I am, both don't like conflicts, and also a big believer in honesty and transparency. When I was relatively starting out, my approach was, I'm just going to tell them the price and that's it. I mean, I've made my calculation. This is the fair price. And if they want it, they'll pay it. If they're trying to negotiate, I guess they don't appreciate me, or they don't trust me, or they don't think it's worth it. So it's not a good fit. If they're going to try to negotiate, it's just no deal. It's either my way or the highway. And luckily, I have my wife, who's now, for a reason, the chief finance of our business. And she used to tell me, people, they expect you to negotiate because this is the game that everybody in the world plays. They don't know that you are not playing the game. They expect you to play the game because everybody plays the game, meaning they think you have asked for more money and now they're going to ask for a discount and you will lower the price. This is the game that everybody else is going. So the best thing you can do is just ask more money, and then when they ask you for a discount, give them the discount, and you will both get what you want. You will get your original price, they will get the discount, everybody wins. And for years, I refused to do that. I was like, no, this is not honest. I am not going to do that. And I suffered. And then, ironically, one of my clients gave me a book about negotiation. And it was a really good book, super practical book I think it's called Secret of Power Negotiation, something like this. And it's super practical. Chapter number 1 is called Ask for More Than You Intend to Get. And it explains exactly the breakdown of what I just said. Both sides needs to win. So, I mean, you have to, but you don't have to tell them that you're winning. Let them feel that they win, and you will also win, and move on with it. And once I've accepted that, things have changed. Also, they have a lot more, they have a lot more tricks and tactics in that book. But I do think that besides those, normal tricks or mechanisms of negotiation, I've actually recently read a very, very smart book called Getting to Yes, which is all about negotiation. Basically, kind of describes a process that is more, I would say, open and transparent about, I really want you to understand what are the motivations for you, what are the real barriers, what will be a win for you, and then trying together to get to a deal that everybody's happy from. I've tried to implement that in every aspect of my life, not just negotiating with clients. We negotiate on anything, right? We negotiate when we buy a house, we negotiate when we hire somebody, or we always have negotiations, even in your family. So it's a good framework for trying to think about how do you create win-win situations. Because at the end of the day, it's not like I'm trying to win them over and trick them or something like this. You do want everybody to be happy.
Well, and I think it goes back to qualifying before you even talk to somebody, because if you're having to convince somebody that good design is worth it in your website, it's kind of a non-starter. And so negotiation becomes less of me trying to pull the wool over your eyes and more of me trying to figure out a scenario where both parties feel like they've got a good deal. And I've always been surprised when I've started out high thinking they were going to come down. Every once in a while, somebody will say, yeah, that sounds great. And so I've just made a lot more money than I thought I was actually going to make because I started out high and then the client was okay with it. So it's interesting how that all plays into the process.
I wanted to say one more thing that I understood is that at the end of the day, you are the one putting a price on what your time and effort and creativity is worth. Nobody's going to tell you that. You have to value it. You have to determine where you want to play and set the number. There's no calculation or market rate that's going to determine it for you. That's something that really has to come from you. A lot of people want the answer. Like, what is the number I should ask? You are the only one who can answer that question. Nobody can tell Gucci what to charge for their bag. It's a random, not a random, but it's their decision. And how you price will create a position for you in the market, right? People also assume that if it's expensive, it's probably better. That's an assumption.
I know that there's probably a lot of folks listening who have just disqualified themselves from the beginning of our conversations, who have said, I will never be able to charge X amount of dollars for my web design services or my freelancer services. So just in closing, what's some advice to some folks out there who are just having a hard time believing that they'd ever get to that level as a freelancer or as a designer?
I almost want to say, go read the testimonials on our website. But I mean, just look at people who are already doing it. I mean, as I've said before, I think that's the biggest proof. Everybody started out just like you. Nobody is, I mean, I think talent is largely a myth. It's a lot of hard work and dedication. These things take time and effort, but you can see that a lot of people from a lot of different backgrounds have managed to do this. And there's a lot of demand for it. And if you put in the time and effort, you have a big chance of being able to do it as well, I think.
Well, Ran, thank you so much for being on the Self-Made Web Designer podcast. If somebody's trying to find you online, where would they go?
On YouTube, you can search for Flux. That's Flux. On Instagram, I am Ran Segall. That's RANSEGALL. And our website is flux-academy.com. And you're more than welcome to check it out.
Man, Ran has such great insight. And the main thing that I want you to walk away from this episode is that you believe that you will one day, if you're not already doing it, sell websites for $10,000. And if you're already selling websites for $10,000, way to go. You will one day sell $20,000 sites, $50,000 sites. Wherever you're at, the level of the ocean is going to begin to rise because you've got it in you. And I hope you haven't dismissed yourself all the way through this conversation saying, that couldn't be me. They don't know my situation. They don't know the lack of talent or the lack of confidence that I have and the hurdles that I have to get over. Listen, everybody starts at the same place. We start out with zero skills and zero abilities to negotiate and work with clients. We all come from a place of stumbling over our inability. The only difference between the people that make it to the $10,000 websites and the people that stay at lower levels or give up altogether is a decision and an ability to stick with it no matter how hard it gets and to keep pushing. And that's why I say it every week, and I'll probably say it twice this week. If you don't quit, you win. Well, hey, next week we've got another amazing episode. It's going to be a lot of fun because it always is. It's always just a hoot here on the Self-Made Web Designer podcast. So I hope that you'll join me next week. We're going to do it again. It's going to drop at midnight. So don't forget, I'm going to say it again. I told you I would. If you don't quit, you win.